degree. Lowe, I'm an astrologer, psychic medium, feng shui practitioner, and I also have a wonderful opportunity to come in with you and to share all my spiritual friends. And tonight we've got a beauty. Her name is Laura Van Tyne, and she deals with some heavy spiritual transformations. We're going to be talking about that. She is also a psychic medium as well. We have done seminars together, and she is here with us today. Put your hands together for Miss Laura Van Tyne. Hi, Laura.
Hi, thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity. I'm here in Florida and I've been enjoying the sun and the weather, and it's just fantastic to be here.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of rain right now. I'm out on the porch. She's actually visiting me. And we can't be too close or we're going to get some feedback. But I want to say hello to everybody coming in to the chat room right now. And we wanted to kind of have a little bit of a loose agenda tonight, but I do want to cover some very necessary, I think, information about soul awareness. And when I talk about soul awareness, I'm talking about, some people say, how do I even know I have a soul? I mean, do I see it? No. Do I play with it? No. I mean, is there, really hard evidence that we really do have a soul?
That's a great question. If we break it down to the basics, what is the energy that animates this physical body? Where does that come from? What is that? That is the soul energy. So when we leave these bodies, because we all die, we do it many times over, not just once. We're not just one and done. When we leave the bodies, the energy that animated this body, that has to go somewhere. And that's our soul energy. This is our precious God-given energy that makes us who we are.
So the energy that we have, our personalities, the way we see things, all of that goes into our soul.
It goes into our soul and our soul history. We reincarnate here for the life lessons our soul needs, for our soul evolution, sometimes even for a soul de-evolution, depending on the choices we make. Our soul also exists in the life between lives as well. So the soul is usually pretty ancient. Not every soul is old, but we've all heard, oh, they're an old soul. What does that mean? It means the soul's been around the block, and these experiences the soul is looking for actually forms our personality. And it's based on our experiences. What have we learned? What are our goals, our aspirations? And when we come here, we're also here to learn about soul purposes. Everybody comes here for soul purposes. What's my purpose? Sometimes the soul purpose is simply surviving childhood. Maybe a soul purpose is to learn how to care for a sick loved one. Maybe a soul purpose is my illness so that I can afford my family the opportunity to care for me. Maybe the soul purpose is to learn how to overcome an addiction. Maybe it's learning how to play the piano. It can be many different things, and we have many of them.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was talking to someone, we were discussing personality disorders, and we were talking about what makes a person bipolar, or why would someone be schizophrenic, or a lot of these different disorders that people are having, and dealing with, let's just say, narcissistic behavior, or some of these other types of, let's just say, personality afflictions. Dealing with that in my own personal life, I have to say that I finally recognized that my soul needed to know how to love unconditionally. And a lot of times you hear moms say that, we're coming up to Mother's Day. And, it's a great time to kind of think to yourself, well, I love my kids unconditionally and all of that. But when it's a partner and it's not a small, innocent child or something, and your soul or your life experience includes the lesson to love unconditionally is huge. And I really felt that um, in some of these times where I've been dealing with personality disorders. And um, you see through this avatar that we wear. You see through the drama. You see through the living situation to read the energy of the person that you're interacting with. Now, my question is, when we are trying to protect our energy, so, a lot of times, let's just say, you're with a different group of people, or, you're with a different culture, you will tend to blend in, or you will tend to be mutable with your personality so that perhaps you'll please somebody, or you'll know what to do, or even the vocabulary you use may be different. You're kind of blending in. And so it's been said, that in order for people not to take your soul, not to be manipulated to you to like harm your imprint or your soul's purpose, that you do need to have some kind of protection. And I know this is your expertise. So how how do you put your soul into a little bubble, but still get along with everybody, and be as close as you possibly can without giving a piece of your soul away?
That's a big deal. And I think part of what we're seeing a lot of is the concept of the term empath, right? We're absorbing people's energies. We're compromising our soul integrity by absorbing a negative energy. And narcissists, the empath narcissist relationship, they're dovetailed. So how do you stop it? Because first of all, when we allow somebody to abuse ourselves, we're abusing ourselves. We're creating negative karma by my letting Joe Schmo abuse me. It doesn't matter if it's energetic, it does whatever that is. So it's my responsibility to learn how to stop that. And karma's going to test us. If we don't get it, in our 20s, we might get another lesson in our 30s or 40s, because we need to understand how to protect our soul. At the end of the day, the only thing we take with us is our soul. We don't take with us our bank accounts, our homes. We take our soul energy and the lessons we've learned from those. So when we're looking at personality disorders, first of all, it can be many different causes for a personality disorder. Sometimes it's trauma. It creates cracks and fissures within the foundation. And the trauma can actually be from past lives. It can get kind of complicated fast, but the traumas that we're experiencing or feeling could be from a past life. It could be from our current life. So when we can start to do the spiritual work, the soul digging to figure this out, to stop the negative patterns, we create a healthy soul. And I don't know about you, Kimla, but I want to have the healthiest soul possible, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about our financial health, our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, but what about our soul health?
Mhm.
So when we start to look at that, that's when we can really start some true spiritual growth.
Right. So, in order to protect yourself, I think awareness, right?
Oh,
Awareness,
absolutely.
number one, and knowing that, yes, it is possible, we can we can put a raincoat over our over our souls when, when it starts to get a little stormy out there. Um, but another thing is that a lot of times, when you are falling in love, let's use that one. When you're falling in love and you feel as though two people are merging and you cannot resist that person, it could be a karmic pull. It could just be you're on the same frequency and you
Mhm.
share so many things. What's a good way to kind of slow down and make some? Do you make ground rules? Do you make some, let's just say, limits on that? How do you go about, really,
Working in relationships, right? Well, the first
yeah,
thing is
relationship skills?
we have to learn how to love ourselves first and foremost. If I can't love me, how can I love somebody else? Now, the love for myself may ebb and flow a bit based on what I'm going through. I mean, we all go through that.
Mhm.
To say that I love myself completely 100% of the time throughout my entire lifetime and all my lifetimes, it's going to be kind of a fabrication, right? So if we can learn how to love ourselves, that's the first step. But also, how do the other people in my life interact with me and how do I interact with them? What are the triggers? A lot of times people will start feeling anxiety and they don't understand. And often that's an energetic disconnect. If
Mm,
you're feeling anxiety, let's say you're in let's say summer's coming up, family reunion time, right?
yeah,
We all have that Uncle Joe that everybody's like, right? All right. So think about what are the triggers that you have when it comes to a family reunion? Who in your family triggers you? Because they're actually a great karmic opportunity to learn and grow from if we handle it with wisdom and discernment. So if you know that Uncle Joe likes to push your buttons about being 40 years old, single, never married, or whatever, you're going to sit and meditate and role play what the scenario is going to look like. And you're going to write down some possible retorts or outcomes that will stop Uncle Joe from putting digs in you. You can do it with kindness and compassion, but you need to stand firm. You need to stand your ground because Uncle Joe digging at you is literally putting little chinks in your armor, and we don't need that.
right,
And when we can stop Uncle Joe from harming us, we're actually helping Uncle Joe's karma as well
right.
by not allowing it. So there's a lot of strategies that we can use. And if you don't mind, I'll just want to talk about energy for a moment. Everything is energy, period. If you're feeling uneasy, if you feel like you're picking up other people's emotions, you need to stop that. It doesn't help you. It's easier said than done. One of the strategies you can do is you're feeling somebody's emotional upheaval. You know it's not yours. Even if it's an animal, it's still energy. One of the things that you can do is you can literally go to the sink and run cold water on your wrists, just right here. It breaks the connection, it diverts your attention.
Hmm.
Orange essential oil is another great tool you can use if you're feeling anxiety, you're feeling like you've got brain fog. There's actual studies that show orange essential oil, pure essential oils, not anything that has a perfume or a chemical.
Hmm.
Just smell it. Open up the bottle and just smell it. It's going to shift your brain chemistry to get you back on track. Those are just a couple of strategies because we want to protect our soul energy.
Right, we do. And another thing I think is to be aware of the value of your soul.
Yes.
And I have never heard that growing up. I have never been introduced to that idea. I had no idea that my soul was so valuable. I had no idea that it was such a galactic commodity. And I feel as though if you knew that you were walking around with, if you were walking around with biggest diamond that you've ever seen in your entire life inside of you. You know, they always say, oh, Elizabeth Taylor had the biggest diamond or the Hope Diamond or whatever. But if you knew, you know, you were the biggest gold nugget ever, you know, and would you protect that?
Right?
Yeah.
Great analogy.
And would you shine it up if you were a little diamond? Make sure that you were all sparkly and clear? Yeah, you
Absolutely.
would. And I just think that we have to really push that agenda, you know, just the awareness of how valuable your soul is and how you can, yes, you can do disservice to your soul. The connect between your lifetime here on earth and your soul's journey. Do you feel as though sometimes that's, you know, that's two directions, two opposite directions?
Right. And this is where we are all beings of God's source. And as a human being from God, God has gifted us free will, right? So we come into this incarnation and we have these contracts or we have these agreements, we have these plans. But then, I've got free will. You know what? I don't want to go to school. I want to go do this. We're changing our path. And you know what? It may be fine. It's up to you individually. What do you want? What does your soul need? And our soul's purposes change over time. We may not need these lessons, but we might need these other lessons. So when we kind of sit back and think about, and just if we can be retrospective about the life that we've lived to this date, what worked well for you, what didn't. But some of the best lessons in life are what didn't work for you. And when we learn what doesn't work for us and why it didn't work for us, it gives us so much opportunity. And I remember just being so angry at God for so many years because we had all these dark entities and things roaming around our house. And I didn't know anything. I was like a school teacher. And what I didn't know and understand was that those beings were an opportunity for me to learn how to remove them, how to keep us safe. Every one of those negative experiences was an opportunity for me to learn from. I didn't like it at the time. I hated it. I was so mad and angry at times. But now that I can look back at my life the past 15, 20 years, it's like, wow, that makes sense now. At the time, it didn't, but now it does. And now I get to carry forth this knowledge with me as I move forward. And that's the whole idea of soul growth.
Got it. You know, another thing is that, and you touched on this earlier, is that your soul is eternal and that the transformations that you go through on earth is well, just an indication of what is to come, you know, when we typically face death and the transformation that we have, and that the body stays, but the soul travels on. Now, when the soul travels on, are you in agreement that it goes to another dimension?
This is kind of tricky. What we want to do is we need to have the understanding and awareness that our soul needs to go home to the heavens, to the higher realms. A lot of times we have these pre-programmed beliefs as humans that maybe a bad soul should rot in hell. Maybe he had unfinished business and that's why, my grandpa's eating dinner with us as a ghost every night. The reality is there's all of these pre-programmed beliefs that have thwarted us. It's very dangerous to live as a ghost, to live in that dimension between heaven and earth, so to speak, because there's a lot of other beings and nefarious creatures out there. So we want to go home. We need to understand that, yes, he may have died when he was 32 and had 3 kids, but his soul needs to go back home because his karmic time here is done. When we leave our bodies, our karmic time here is done. To allow somebody to linger knowingly or unknowingly, is somewhat cruel. But I do know from personal experience that when my dad died, he lived in our house as a ghost, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what it meant. Um, he he was there. He was talking to one of my daughters on a regular basis. He was telling my daughter things about my childhood that nobody else knew. So I knew it was really my dad. But it left me with a question: why did my in-laws not come over and visit us? But why is my dad as a ghost living with us? All three of them died within about a year and a half. And it's not like, I'm thinking, do they come back here for vacations? What is this about, right? Why? And so what I realized was, and it took a while, that my in-laws lived full lives. When they left this body, they somehow knew how to cross over, and they did that. And then when my dad died, he was not ready to go. He met the love of his life. He had a tumultuous relationship with my mom. I mean, that happens. He meets the love of his life. He's having the best time in the world. His favorite hobby was, how cheap can I fly around the world and where can I go?
Wow.
Right? That was his thing. But now all of a sudden, he only had 15 years with my stepmom, and he dies. And he starts living in our house as a ghost, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what it meant. And it wasn't until much later that I started to understand these angels came into our house. And actually, let me rephrase that. These two pairs of angels were on our back patio with my in-laws, my mother-in-law and father-in-law. And they're not coming in the house. And my daughter's like, hey, grandma and grandpa are over there, and they've got these angels with them. I'm like, what? I'm like, well, why aren't they coming in? And the angels said, because we weren't invited in. They are abiding by spiritual law. And they went on. So first of all, my husband is really excited about this. He can see his mom and dad. Meanwhile, my dad has been here for months. And right. And my daughter says, they have messages for you, Mom. And the messages from these angels were so profound. There's like 7 or 8 of them. But the biggest takeaway was, and this is 15 plus years ago, the world is going to be a very dark place. Humanity needs to understand they need to ask the angelic realms for help. They need to ask for help. We cannot help humanity unless we are asked. That's a really big deal.
Yes.
No ask is too small or too large. The angels went on to describe that many of these churches and religious institutions have marginalized their help. Don't ask an angel for help. My problem's too small. It's not important enough, etc. This wears down the soul. Ask the angels for help. I always ask them, I need a good parking spot. Maybe I need a good sale on some blue jeans. Ask. Okay? Ask, ask, ask. The more you ask the angels for help, the more you grow your spiritual team. The more you in tune to God and source you become, the more healthier your soul becomes. And this is a free service. It doesn't even cost you anything other than the ask. And everybody has the right to ask. That's a really big deal. And I took that away. And, fast forward to nowadays, those angels were right. This world does seem to be getting a bit darker. We see it in all these different facets. So humanity needs to start asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
And it's asking for help to make sure your child is safe at night. Your kid is going away with a bunch of teenagers in the car, pack the car with angels. I'm requesting the angels to help to keep my child safe in the car from the moment he leaves to the moment he comes back. Be specific. The angels like that. Mm-hmm. They help our soul growth and evolution quite a bit, but we need to know we can ask.
That's right. That is so important as well as when you are involved in spiritual work as well. And the Chinese masters taught us this pertaining to feng shui, that you are not allowed to alter any energy unless you have their permission. And that is any energy within the body, any energy within the home. I think this is so important, that people are in control of their own, helm. They know that, hey, you know what? I'm not in control of the interest rates right now, but
Yeah,
I'm in control of, who I give permission to and who I don't, who I ask and who I don't.
that's
This
a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal. But this brings up another question that I get, and I'm sure you do in your work too. Am I talking to the right people?
Good question.
Mm,
So if Kimla knows me, but I'm all about discernment, spiritual discernment. I never trust when I ask for a team of angels to come in and assist me. I never trust they're actually the angels from the higher realms because I know they're shapeshifters. I know they're charlatans. Just like in our 3D mortal physical world,
yep.
we have a pedophile priest. We have, a dentist who, I don't know, beats his wife. And I'm not picking on any profession, but every profession has them.
Yeah.
So we need to be discerning whom or what we're speaking and communicating with. And this is where people fall into the trap. When you don't discern whom or what you're speaking or communicating with in the other realms, you can be selling your soul, but not knowing it.
Right.
One of the things that I always recommend, even if you feel like you're not psychic enough to see or sense the angels or the light beings that are around you, you're going to simply close your eyes and visualize yourself pouring down a torrential rain of salt all over you, all over the room, the home, whatever it is. It's a spiritual practice. Keep practicing it. The more you practice, the faster and better you get. Anybody who's learned how to ride a bike knows that those first few times can be a little painful. That's okay.
Yeah.
Keep practicing. So you can also visualize yourself pouring frankincense oil on them or another high frequency substance. And what this does is the lower level beings who are shape shifting to try to get a piece of your soul energy, they can't handle those frequencies. They will either shape shift to their true form and be taken away, or they simply disappear.
Dissolve. Yeah.
And when that happens, don't think that you weren't good enough or strong enough. You think, wow, I dodged a bullet.
Yeah.
That's key right there. The
Yeah.
more spiritual discernment we can use, the stronger our soul gets. And I have a lot of strategies in my book, Soul Tribe Navigating the Spiritual War. It's basically full of these strategies that are simple because I can't stand it when you get this information from spiritual practitioners that's like, 10-page instructions on how to remove an entity. It doesn't need to be that complicated.
Mhm. Right. Right. And do you know some of the let's just say some of the hooks or some things that perhaps they'll say to you or entice you with for a piece of your soul?
If it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true.
Mhm.
They love it when people use tools of divination to get an answer.
Mhm.
If you need a tool of divination to get an answer, you need to vet whom or what you're getting an answer from.
Mhm. Yes,
So you
absolutely.
have to.
The
And
Ouija boards.
oh my goodness, right? And a Ouija board is a simple, harmless child from Hasbro, right? Or whatever the toy company is.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of power in that because
Yeah.
I don't know if I've shared the story about a Ouija board with you before.
I don't think so.
Okay, so I have a client who is actually lives near me, which is kind of rare. Her mother dies. The mother, daughter, granddaughter live in one house. Grandma dies. And I get a call saying, "Hey, Laura, my mother died. She's still in the house. All three of them were psychic. I don't know what to do. Can you help me?" And so I said, "Of course." And so we cross over grandma together. And anybody listening can get, the Crossing Over Soul prayer, email it me at laura@thekarmicpath.com. I will be happy to send it to you, no strings attached. So we're working and we cross grandma over, and then I get a call from the woman a few weeks later saying, "You're not going to believe this, but my daughter says she's been talking to grandma. How is that?" Because once a soul crosses over to the higher realms, They can't sit and talk to us like you and I are talking. It's a violation of spiritual law. I have to learn how to live my life without my loved one for now. So the mom is concerned. The mom knows this. And so I said, well, do you mind if I come over? Sure. So the daughter comes, the mom and the daughter are here, and the daughter's so excited. She's like, I get to talk to grandma anytime I want, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, how are you doing it? She goes, well, my friend and I, we made our own Ouija board. And I said, oh, really? She goes, yeah. And now I can call grandma anytime I want. And she comes and she tells me all these things about my childhood. And she's telling me I'm going to be doing all these things in my future. It's like, really? So I'm in their living room. I create a containment field. And this is something that I do, because if I don't know what I'm dealing with, right? I said, do me a favor, call in your grandma and have her stand right here. This is my containment field, but you can't physically see it. Grandma comes in and grandma starts talking. And I said, and she's telling us all of these things, how great the granddaughter is and how successful she's going to be, and the boy she's going to marry, all of these fairy tale things, right? And so I say, you know what? I'm going to do something, and I want you to watch grandma, and let's see what happens. So I poured salt over grandma, and grandma actually shapeshifted into a reptilian form. That was never grandma. And what would have happened is, if they would have allowed grandma to keep inhabiting the house, the home would have become haunted.
Mm-hmm.
They would have been suffering through health and wealth.
Mm-hmm.
They would have had plumbing issues and electrical issues and things like that. This reptilian figure would have brought his friends and cousins over too, because there's a great party at this house.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So this is the danger of a divination tool without discernment.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's not that extreme. It's very common.
Mm-hmm.
So discern.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, when they cross over, and by universal law, they cannot come back, they cannot do this and that. I feel as though there are specific dimensions that they go through, and I feel as though they're guides, and a lot of times I am referred to as that. My channel goes up, and I am, it just seems like I am breaking through dimensions as well. In your work, I know that you are also a hypnotist,
Mm-hmm.
and you also can get to the subconscious, or the higher self, as you call it.
Yes.
And are able to listen or experience someone who has reached another dimension, who has broken through another lifetime. Can you tell us what advantages there are to doing something like that?
So with a past life regression, there's a few advantages, but you need to make sure what you're looking for is a spiritual gain or an asset, and not just a parlor trick. So in any spiritual practitioner you hire, if it's a hypnotherapist, whatever it is, vet them, ask them questions, get references. If you don't like what they say, run. Not everybody's going to be the right fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
But with a past life regression, a lot of times if somebody has an ailment, or maybe they keep having the same roadblocks, maybe it's a financial roadblock or an emotional roadblock, or they keep attracting the wrong people, right? Why is that? What's going on? How can I fix this? And sometimes a past life regression will give us some answers that we need to help us move forward faster in this lifetime. And I remember this one story, in particular, where a young man he's just been suffering in this life, and he had been addicted to drugs. He got cleaned up. He wanted a regression to make sure he stayed cleaned up. And how can he make sure he's not going to go back, right? And at the beginning of this regression, and usually they don't start this way, okay? Don't be afraid of it. He starts out with, "Oh, I was a very bad man." I'm like, "Whoa." Usually, we're dropping down into a scenario or something. Long story short, in a previous life, he was a drug dealer. So now that was that lifetime. He was responsible for certain things in that lifetime. In this lifetime, he's atoning and he's learning to understand what he did and how he can move it forward. So his soul got to see two sides of the same coin. And it's very, very helpful. Now, that's an extreme case, but sometimes the soul finds out that their fear of water, for example, they drowned in a past life. And when you can bring that to the surface, the fear of water can dissipate.
Hmm.
And along with this past life regression, when I do them, I like to do a lot of deep healing work.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody has a knee injury or maybe, any type of physical ailment, the higher self and the teams, the spiritual teams from the higher realms can, if the person does not need the experience anymore, heal them. I had a woman who reached out to me because she wanted to know why her child was severely disabled. And he had a lot of seizures and stuff. And he might have been like 7 or 8 at the most, or she, excuse me. And as we're doing the regression on the mom, the child pops up. And I asked the question, does the child need the seizures anymore? The higher level beings actually conferred, and we're like waiting, and I'm like, I don't know what to say, what to do. Okay, just keep talking, people. And they decided that this child, she no longer needed the seizures because the mom needed the experience to learn how to care for somebody at that deep level, that unconditional love level. The child never had seizures again.
Wow.
And that healing was done through a surrogate. I never make a promise, but that was really profound.
That was really profound. Wow. That's
And
amazing, healer. Amazing.
and
Amazing.
it's not me, but it's the teams that come in, right?
Yeah.
I'm just a conduit when I do
Right.
this type of work.
And that's exactly how I would explain it as well. I'm just a telephone cord for what's going on. So it is possible to perhaps have to perhaps have an energy latch onto you that you need to, clean up, dissolve, or whatever. Now, what happens when you are carrying an entity and you pass away?
That entity many things can happen. I pass away and I'm being haunted by this dark entity. Let's just call him a black magician for lack of a better word. The black magicians are the scraggly haired people with the long bony hands and sometimes a cloak or whatever. Or it could be like a hat man figure. If I say the word hat man and that triggers something for you, you know what that means. And then you pass away, they still can be with you. You need to make sure you go home to God, to source. Now, the next part is these beings can attach to anybody they want to. So they can't attach to a healthy soul because it's a frequency differential. If I'm all shored up, one of the tricks that I use a lot when I'm out and about, and this is great if you have to go to a hospital, if you're at the airport, liquor store, whatever, put yourself inside of a tetrahedron. Visualize yourself inside of a 4-sided triangle, 3 walls and a floor. What this does is it protects your space. I'm visualizing myself in this tetrahedron. I'm going to do a few things. And again, it's a spiritual practice, and it's all in the book. I'm going to bring up a violet flame to clear myself. If I'm in a car, I can put it around the car and myself. I can put it around my home and myself. And then I'm going to bring down just basically a rain of salts, maybe frankincense oil, maybe myrrh. It can be many different high frequency substances. What it does is it cleans, clears, and transmutes the energy.
Right.
And when we do that, they can't attach. Keep yourself in the containment field the entire time you're at the hospital. Hospitals are always haunted. The only thing that ever really good that comes out of a hospital is usually a baby is born. Most of the time, hospitals are full of fear and anxiety, which is just a feasting ground for these dark ones. So keep yourself protected. If you have a loved one in the hospital, fill their room with angels from the higher realms. Request the guidance of angels to assist the surgeon. You can do that because they're working on your loved one.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot we can do to take our power back. And this soul health is about taking our power back. There's a lot we can do, and play with it. Figure out what works for you. Figure out what rings true for you. Don't just blindly trust. Use your own intuition. Our intuition is actually our most profound psychic ability. We think that it's so, cool and sexy to see dead people, right? No, not so much. It's about intuition. When we use our intuition, we're talking to God's source. When we use our intuition, we're learning how to connect. We're feeling the energy around us. How many people have ever been somewhere and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to turn left because I don't know why, but I'm not going to. Mm-hmm. There's something energetically there that's a disconnect for you. Mm-hmm. Learn how to trust your intuition. Many times us as kids have had it beaten out of us, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. We have to learn how to rebuild and regrow it. A simple tool to work on intuition is just write 3 words on some note cards, mix them up, put your hand over it and say, maybe it's grass, coffee, and coffee table. I don't know. Put your hand over it and try to feel the word for coffee. Mm-hmm. It's just a spiritual practice. Mm-hmm. If you have business cards, and I use a pendulum to test energy. I don't use a pendulum to say, oh, will my boyfriend love me or whatever it is, right? And I don't have a boyfriend, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So don't use it to ask questions. Make a statement with the pendulum, and you can turn business cards upside down. If you feel like you have somebody in your business world that's not cool, mm-hmm. they may not have your back. Take your pendulum and just start swinging it over the business cards and see if it goes clockwise, positive, counterclockwise, negative. Mm-hmm. It's a spiritual practice.
Right. As we're talking about connecting, and I always, these spiritual hacks, we just connect to them, and we use them and incorporate them in our everyday lives. There's so many signs that just go right past us, and in everyone's world, there's messages or little nudges or, oh, I heard that, but I don't know where I heard that. Or, there's something that sticks in your memory, or even the recognition of another soul. And this is something that I find fascinating, because when you are in a sea of people on the planet and you recognize another soul, it is profound. You're like, oh, I know that person.
Right.
Yeah. And you feel that connection. And, I always say that, just savor that for as long, but don't put expectations on it.
Right.
Because when you have this recognition of soul to soul on the same frequency, you may have the feeling of home. A lot of us aren't, let's just say, a lot of us haven't been to Earth in a long time in our reincarnations, and we do have home and another planet or another star system, or perhaps the sun, or somewhere else in the galaxies. But this soul makes you feel like home. And they may not, on this particular soul's journey, they may not have written you into the mission.
Yeah.
So just make sure that you don't put all of these expectations on it, because then it kind of turns into a pushy karmic, maple syrup kind of thing. where there's a lot of debris around the relationship. And the way that you can tell if you're wrapped in a karmic relationship is that there's a lot of drama. You have a sense of not being yourself, and you also do not thrive. It's something that, you do not, you don't become, you don't reach your goals. That's key. You feel like you're stuck. And another one is wealth. Wealth just seems to dissipate. And you can't really manifest the things that you really do want in your life. And not only that, but you feel as though you're a victim a lot of times when you're in a karmic relationship. If there's karmic that you're paying back or they're paying back to you, these are some things that perhaps we have to clear karma with someone that we're involved in. But for these special times that you connect with soul to soul, there's so many songs about it, right? So many movies made about it. But it can happen. It can happen in a way that perhaps you acknowledge them, they acknowledge you, but your soul, it's like star-crossed lovers, like they say. You're not supposed to spend your life with them or go through and learn the lessons with them. Um, and I feel as though a lot of times when people do have that feeling or they're in one of those types of relationships, they do seek out somebody that's a hypnotist, perhaps to kind of guide them through and say, why do I feel so close to this person? I feel like immediately when I met this person, I knew him. I knew his soul. I just knew him. I knew him from somewhere. It's been bothering me? Where did I meet him? And do you feel as though, yeah, you can tell this person, you can solve that mystery for them when they're under hypnosis?
If their higher self and subconscious self allows it. I actually did a couple of sessions just this week. And one of them was the question that, because when somebody comes to me for this, I will say, I want you to write me as many questions that you have on relationships, on health, on whatever that is. And we go over those questions. And one of the questions I asked was, what is this person's relationship with their daughter? Right. And the answer was a deep soul connection from another star system. They agreed to come in together at this time. And that was just beautiful, right?
Right.
And I suspect that those two people have a very deep connection, maybe a deeper connection to each other than they would a spouse or something like that. And that's okay. They're part of that same soul family, and we all have soul families.
Mhm.
And sometimes we exist and we might not be with our soul family, but we have to remember that right now in these physical bodies, we are living in mortal time.
Mhm.
It's very finite. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end. But we exist, our souls exist in cosmic time, the eternity of it.
Mhm.
Love never dies. Love transcends dimensions. And that keeps us connected. If we have, like when my dad died, it was the sucker punch of my lifetime. I mean, honestly, you could have ripped off my arm and I would have been more okay with that than my dad dying. And, I was in my mid 30s. It wasn't like I was a kid, but I had to learn how to live my life and this mortal life without him. And that was the contract that we came with, right?
Mhm.
He didn't know how to cross over, by the way, which was finishing up the story with the angels and my dad and my in-laws. My in-laws knew how to cross over. My father did not, but we did cross him over once I gained the understanding. And I knew he was in a good place. I knew he was in a safe place. So anybody who has a loved one who needs help crossing over, or even a not so loved one who needs help crossing over, right? You bring in the angels. I'm requesting angels to cross over my loved one or not so loved one and take them to the heavens, take them to the higher realms, whatever your word is for it, right now. Because what we're doing is we're helping their soul to remain healthy and vibrant.
And not just that, but a lot of times through, I want to say through illness, trauma, loss, your soul can be so fragile and can really splinter, can fracture. Um, there can be pieces of your soul in different dimensions that are hiding, healing,
Yes.
doing other things. And the oversoul is so huge, you can't really fit in the body. And so it would just kind of, explode with the energy that you're really made of. When we talk about being in two places at once, and we talk about, these timelines, they're going on at the same time. I'm living this life here and this life over here. We may not understand how that overlaps, but at this particular time, it's a little foggy still. Even when I go through it, even when I'm, even when I'm really reaching and trying to explain how this works. But just like angels can be everywhere, your soul, once it's together and it's very powerful, can really transcend different dimensions at the same time. At the same time,
We are multidimensional beings.
we are.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing at what that potential looks like. Now, we were talking about, breaking through dimensions and doing all of these things. What I'm excited about as an astrologer is I get a birth chart from someone, an accurate birth chart. And from the chart itself, you can see where you came into your mother and your father. And a lot of times you can tell by the chart that you are a star seed coming into this particular reunion of soul tribe or soul family. A lot of times you can also see that there will be a karmic reason why you're coming in at this particular time on planet Earth, and what your soul purpose is, especially when you're looking at the nodes, the North Node and the South Node. When you're looking at astrology, from my point of view and my perspective, with the age of Aquarius now beginning, Pluto is bringing in the generational vibratory rate. Our moon is in Cancer at this particular time on May 10th, and in Capricorn. Capricorn takes care of business. We've had the Capricorn generation, like a generational thread in the wake of Pluto, transforming the governments, transforming from the top-down situations and modalities. We're going to be now building from the bottom up. But what we are moving into, which is so important, I wanted to get this out, is that Pluto is going to be retrograding back into Capricorn to just tie up some loose ends, review what we have built. Capricorns are builders. They're architects of the galaxy and our particular planet. Think about everything that we have built in this particular realm of Pluto in the last 18 years. I mean, everything that we construct in new homes. You even construct an automobile that takes you to the airport. that, you get in an airplane that you constructed, to go to a city that you've constructed. Everything is constructed. Everything has been built. And that needs a plan. That needs a step-by-step approach. Where we're going in 2024, in January and the transition into February, we're going to be going for 20 years into the new generation of the age of Aquarius. Aquarians are the mental sign. Their motto is I think. So we have been using our hands. We have been building, 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 building. When we now, for the next 20 years, we're going to be experiencing the thought process constructs where we want, what we want, who we want, and how we want it to happen. So we are going from this brick and mortar manifestation to a new frequency of thought. It's a new exploratory um, chapter in planet Earth. And this is where and how we are going to learn to create our new experiences. This is going to be something that we're only at 0 degrees. So we're little babies going through this stage, but what you can think, you can create. Now we know this. We've heard this, right? I mean, we've all heard this, right?
Our
But
mind is our most powerful asset, really.
yes. And so the basis of all of this is that exploring the mental waves, okay, and connecting your soul to that mental realm, because we have been working on connecting our soul to the physical realm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of us have been very good at it. And some of us are still struggling, wherever you are on that path. But in the next 20 years, we are going to be connecting our soul to the mental realm. The mental realm, and a lot of people say, was the mental realm a spiritual realm? That's a good question.
Good question, isn't it?
It's a good question. Or is the spiritual realm within the heart?
Or are all of these aspects part of spiritual realms as
Right.
well, right? And as we're looking at our spirituality, we're multifaceted.
Like rainbows. We're
Right.
turning it, we're rainbows. So we can hold all of those frequencies. So it's your mental focus, your mental direction. We're going to learn how to harness that into so many different ways. So, one thing, if you have the awareness we were talking about earlier, if you have the awareness of how valuable your soul is, this goes into or lends itself into the value of how valuable your life is. And to pack it every moment and to live like you really want it.
Yeah.
You really want this life. And a lot of us have been pretty blasé about it. And, deal with it tomorrow, 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 procrastinating. Um, some of the lessons we really do need to get under our belt. So I have a feeling that we have a lot of kicks in the butts coming at us pretty soon.
You got to wonder. I kind of want to circle back a little bit. You're talking about it being a mental time. And in my line of work, I'm seeing a lot of brain fog that people are experiencing.
Mm.
So we need to clear the brain fog so we can have that mental capacity to create, etc. So if you're dealing with brain fog, there's ways that you can work around. Being out in nature helps a
Yep.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
Getting your feet in the ground helps. It's literally grounding you. It
Mm-hmm.
will help clear that brain fog. And if you feel like you're suffering from and you can't get out of bed, it's hard to move throughout the day, you need to do something to shift your energy. Because I think, honestly, I'm wondering if this conglomeration of brain fog that so many people are experiencing has to do with the upcoming age of Aquarius.
Well,
Is it
I'll
clearing and cleaning things?
Well, there's a couple of different things that I know for a fact is bringing about the brain fog, and the use of metals, aluminum,
Yes.
toxicity is way out of control, chemicals way out of control. But you know how hard it is when you're carrying someone. You know how hard that is, carrying a child, hiking all over or doing something like that. When your body and your flow inside your body is carrying parasites or carrying some type of a toxic that's living off of you. I mean, they're actually living off of you. They don't just
Sucking
stay
your
there.
energy, right?
Yeah, they're sucking out your energy, whether it is an entity or, really an amoeba or a parasite or something,
Or your mother-in-law.
or your mother-in-law.
I don't want to give bad names to mother-in-laws. I'm just kidding.
That comes from somewhere, though, doesn't it?
I don't know. My mother-in-law was great, so I have no complaints.
I'm actually a mother-in-law, and oh, that's so funny. But the thing about it is anything that is dead weight, that is not, you're not let's just say you're not full of vim and vigor, and you don't have the curiosity or the joy of life.
Yeah.
The joy is the highest frequency. It's higher than love, actually. And so when you have joy, it just radiates out of you. It actually heals others, and it actually can help people get unstuck from exactly the fog that they've been living in. But
And joy is contagious.
Yes, absolutely contagious, just like everything else. But I think when you start to look at brain fog and you start to look at what's weighing you down, that's where this technology is going to come in. The age of Aquarius, they're very tech savvy. They're known to be on genius level in so many different ways. We are going to see all of this technology come to pass where you'll be able to look through yourself. You'll be able to see what is keeping you down. What are the chains of this last era, and how to break those chains so that you can fly. Your mental state is going to be in such a high frequency that you are going to be really, I want to say, breaking through dimensions. And you are, and all of us are here to do that. Now, saying that, we're going to travel back in retrograde to Capricorn a little bit and open up a huge portal here. And this is an invitation that if you came to build and support the era of brick and mortar manifestation, you may feel really tired right now. You may be presenting with a lot of health issues on your avatar. Your soul actually may be exhausted, because it can be, right?
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
your soul can need a rest. Your soul has been through a lot of trauma, a lot of earthly, just living in the 3 dimension is hard for soul, but it may need a rest. And so in order for you to really kind of make that decision, there's so many people on the other side that is on your team, that's in advising you, and there's so many things that, have you lost your passion? Have you lost your light? Have you lost, um, just the purpose of why you are here, or the value of your life itself? You may need a rest, and it's okay. We're eternal.
Absolutely.
We're eternal. And so it's okay to let them go and let them have a rest before this huge shift takes place. This means a specific alignment in frequencies. This means that, yes, you have to be aware that there's work to be done. and that there are things that you need to change from your daily habits, perhaps from your family generational beliefs for many generations. This is going to affect you and all of us on planet Earth that much. So that's how I see what's really coming in store. You
I
know.
love it. And for anybody that knows me, Kimla is definitely my go-to for astrology.
Oh,
So
thank
if you're looking for somebody who's trustworthy and competent and goes the extra mile with this, you really need to book a session with Kimla. You will not regret it.
Thank you so much for that. And you can do that at kimlalowe.com. I'm running a special, by the way, for anyone who is still feeling the fallout from that Scorpio full moon lunar eclipse. And we've got some more action coming up in astrology that I'm going to be writing about. So I would love to work with you. If you knew your soul map, if you knew it, just like you could go and go, hey, what's the GPS? Where am I going in life? I mean, why wouldn't you not?
Right?
Why wouldn't you not do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's
yes,
it's fantastic. And when you're at a crossroads or need to make a decision, etc., it's really, really helpful.
it really is, because with all the different chartings that I do, I also do a Chinese chart to kind of balance out the yin and yang. It really does bring it all together. Well, talking about, the soul with you it's so enlightening and um, enlightening and, you know, I want to say higher realms and raising up the spirit, but also it's so deep and it's so, I want to say, gut changing, and to really have just just knowing that we really do have the ability to control where our soul goes and what it does and how to protect it, how to enlighten it, how to slow it down, um, and how to explain a lot of these chaotic situations that we're facing on a day-to-day basis. It's just fabulous, and you do it so well.
I try.
Please tell us all how we can get a hold of your book.
You can go on Amazon. You can go to my website. It's on there, thekarmicpath.com. The book is Soul Tribe, Navigating the Spiritual War. These are difficult times, and this book it's a quick read with basically things that you can do that are simple and easy, that don't cost a ton of money, that don't take a lot of time, but you want to start building your spiritual practice, your soul practice, to help enhance what you already have. So
That's right.
thank you.
And if you're wishing for a change in direction, and a guide to that, it's fabulous. It's really, there are nice workbooks involved so that you can really have a nice diary for that and really kind of write your feelings down. It's really something that should be on your shelf and really a go-to whenever you come up with a tough situation to deal with. Hey, it is way past our bedtime.
It is.
I want to say,
Even on the East Coast now, it's like, wow, I'm tired. What?
oh,
It's
no. Well,
only
yeah,
4 o'clock or 5 o'clock back home.
it's really dark behind me. But anyway, thanks so much, Laura, for coming along with me
Thank
and talking
you.
about the soul, your favorite subject, and you're so good at it. And thank you, everyone. And just so you know, you can like, you can share, you can subscribe, you can tell your friends about the show. And we are at YouTube, and you can just push on the live. Push on that little button that says live. You'll be able to just binge watch all of 27 degrees Sag, the Galactic Center. So have a wonderful night, everyone. And from my heart to yours, including Laura,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for coming along with us. And until next time, may the angels protect you and guide you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. And good night.